Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy, and this is Late Friday Night's Banter Blitz, the next episode of the show in which I try to provide you with instructive commentary at first place, and only then just trying to win the game against you. Hopefully, everything will be alright from a technical point of view. I mean the sound, the picture, and by the way, just let me know in chat if it is more or less okay right now. And we will start playing. So as usual, I'm gonna start with players I've never played before. Usually I play 3 games against this sort of newcomers. And then we come back to the normal order of challenges, just one by one. So sound and picture both fine, says Shelling Ford, stream okay. And this means everything's fine. Great. So let me scroll through the challenges, searching for a guy I've never ever played before. So, by the way, we have not so many challenges right now, which is a bit strange, but okay. So, calculate well is probably my first choice because we've never ever played before, except. And I'm playing with black pieces. All right. So, by the way, it says that calculate well is offline, which is probably a bad sign. This game may never start, but well, he's online in fact. Great. So let's start playing. Here we have close Catalan after d5. There are some lines, of course, that deserve attention after bishop b4 check and then go into e7. But I tend to play it without that check because I think it's also all right. Okay, so sort of main line. White prepares e4. Bishop goes to b7, e4, and now the knight goes to a6. So a lot of constant viewers here. That is nice. Hello, guys. I'm happy you're here. b3. Okay, b3 is probably not the best move in this position. I think a3 is the main line, or e5 immediately. So I think in this case I can exploit this diagonal h8, a1. At least let's try to do that. So, I mean, this line takes e4. Now, knight takes here, I play c5, undermining the center and attacking the knight on e4. Bishop takes. Now d4 is under attack, and actually I can grab it because I attack it several times. And probably I'm fine. More than fine, I guess. But we will see. Question, do you speak German? Yes, I do. But not that great if compared to English. Or Ukrainian. Or Russian. So, I can say something, of course. I can even talk to people in German, but it is still not enough, not good enough for hosting a show or something like this. All right, a3. Now there is a question where to go. I can go to c6 probably, because if knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, I have queen takes d4. This looks very logical, just to protect the pawn d4 one more time. Why not? rook to d1, and now I think it makes sense for me just to play e5 to forget about the problem of handing d4 pawn. And now I'm simply having the extra pawn, I guess, which is very good. That's why b3 is not very good in general in that position, because of this forced line. But of course white was not forced to give up a pawn. There was a chance to actually regain it with the help of knight g5 jump at some point. But okay, it's already in the past, so let's focus on the present. b4. Is there a concrete threat? I don't think so. I mean, there is probably something like b5, but then my knight goes to a5. I'm completely fine with that. So I'm going to play just rook e8, gradually improving the position. Knight goes to d2. And still b5 is not a threat, I guess, because of knight a5. But there is probably a move like knight to e4 disturbing my bishop, so maybe it makes sense for me just to play g6, bishop g7. But after knight e4 there will be also an idea of playing c5 and knight to d6. Is it really dangerous? I'm not quite sure that it is, but it may be, in fact. It may be not very pleasant. So let's check. There was also a question on chat if there is a difference between Ukrainian and Russian. Yeah, there is a big difference. They are two different languages, actually. A strange question. So try to think about it, like, is there a difference between Czech and Polish? Yeah, there is. Although they sound very similar to, for example, some people all around the globe, but they're completely different languages. Okay, knight e4. There is now a threat of playing c5, I guess. And the problem is that I cannot really prevent it the way I want. So maybe it makes sense for me just to play f5. Oh, that is too risky, I guess. But feels alright, for now at least, because I can parry this bishop d5 with the help of even more aggressive e4, which was probably the part of my plan. c5, okay. So now there is a threat of what? Of playing queen to a2. Yeah, this is annoying. It's really annoying. I'm in trouble here, guys. I'm just in trouble. I can basically go away with the knight, but there is no good square. And if I play this queen d5, which I think is my only move, there is b5 move. Where after I think I have to just sacrifice a piece. So after b5 there is a threat of playing c6, so I will just capture on c5, and after bc6 I will take with the bishop. So I missed something somewhere. I mean, my position still looks very interesting and promising, but I'm a minor piece down, which is bad. But this is something promising now, because I have bishop d5 and then I take on b2. That was a mistake. So white should have protected the bishop somehow, or just moved it away from b2 position. Because now I win some material and I'm definitely winning the game, I think. But the only problem is the time, because I don't have a lot on my clock. But look at these pawns, they're just monsters. So I'll just play d3, c4, c3, and this all goes almost automatically without problems. My bishops just support these guys. Yeah, it's just absolutely lost for white. So where did I make my mistakes? So let's start with white's mistakes. First of all, b3 is not very good. So it's better to cover b4 square with the help of a3 move here, just to prevent this line. b3, well, gives me a chance to play this knight b4. Queen b1 is forced because pawn on e4 is hanging. That's why it's important to protect it. Now I take and play c5. After knight f6, bishop takes f6, the only chance to actually not to be a pawn down. Let me remember, just something like knight to g5, I think. But does it really work in this position? Yeah, it works. So knight g5, I take on g5. Now bishop takes b7, rook goes to b8, and bishop goes to e4. That's the point. So you can grab h7 if you want, or you can provoke me playing something like f5, which is also not that cool. So usually black takes on d4, and after bishop h7 and king h8, we have this position, which is absolutely okay for black, because black exchanged the pawn on h7 for a central pawn and feels great with better center and probably almost inevitable exchange of one pair of bishops, because if bishop goes to b2, well, I just play g6, trap that one, so white basically has no time to avoid the exchange of these dark squared bishops, which means white doesn't have the advantage of this sword, so pair of bishops. So that was probably the best way of doing it. After cd4, I guess it's already late, so now I have just extra pawn and can protect it easily. And now I start thinking that probably my mistake was knight to c6. On the other hand, if I play knight to a6, this idea of knight g5 still works. And if bishop g5, then bishop b7 actually attacking the rook and the knight. So maybe knight c6 was forced if I didn't want to sacrifice an exchange for no reason. So that was probably okay. Rook to d1, e5 also looks good. But then after b4, probably after b4, I started playing not very good. So in this position, probably I should have played queen to c7 instead of rook e8. And now if the knight goes to d2, all right, just something solid like knight to d8, maybe even, trying to exchange the light squared bishop. And this should guarantee very pleasant position. I mean, if knight e4, okay, bishop goes to e7, and I cover d6, so I'm fine. And there is a pressure on c4. This knight can go to e6 later, and so forth. That was probably my mistake, so I started playing not very convincing moves. Knight d2, now I don't have a chance to play knight anywhere, so I have to do something with this bishop, because I didn't really want to put it on e7. Maybe that was another mistake, another inaccuracy. And here knight e4 immediately was very pleasant for white, I guess. So knight e4, bishop g7, just c5, preparing knight to d6, and b5 followed by c6 looked very promising. So h4, okay, bishop g7, knight e4. I cannot really do anything about this c5 probably. If white wants, he plays c5 here. And this f5 was too risky, of course, and c5 was a good reaction. After queen d5, b5 is also very natural. But somewhere here, white started playing strangely. So I guess it was important to regroup the pieces right now. Maybe just to play, you know, queen to c2, or maybe queen to c1 to avoid d3. Controlling c4 square, exerting some pressure on c5. On the other hand, well, I'm still okay after, you know, even c4 move. So, but white is still fighting here, have an extra minor piece, I guess. So queen a2 is probably the wrong direction. After rook b8, there is already a problem with protecting that bishop. And knight a3 is just a blunder. So I take here, bishop here. Well, it's possible, of course, to save the bishop, probably if white wants, but I just take the rook and then play c4. Should be just winning position for black. Too many pawns, too many passers. They are all connected, and of course, There is no chance for white to... All right, not a bad try, I would say. So let's go further. Let's go further. Let's search for another guy I've never ever played before. So let me... Okay, Philip Blume. All right, pal, let's play. Accept. Playing with white. Let's go. And what do we have here? We have Sicilian. Sicilian. You guys just said that there was a problem with the broadcast. Quick one. Is it back now? I mean, is it all right at the moment? Yeah, on my end it shows that it just dropped slightly, but right away it's more or less fine. So it would be nice to know if you have the same on your end. Okay, thank you to iHosex. So we have this h3 line against Najdorf. Well, not against Najdorf, against Najdorf setup. So black didn't play e5, instead e6, which is also absolutely playable. So now I have a feeling that g5 should be logical follow-up. Knight to d7. Let us continue with the development. So my plan is pretty much straightforward. I bring the bishop to e3, then queen to e2, castle, and pawn storm. On the king side, and probably in the center as well. Azurmis says h3, you must play h5 in this variation. I don't want to say you must play h5. In fact, this is also absolutely playable if black plays it correctly. And at the moment, black made no bad moves. Everything looks very logical. So b4 is a very annoying threat. It's a very annoying threat. I'm not sure that with the bishop on e3, I can come up with the sacrifice of the knight on d5. Followed by taking on d5 and then knight to f5. So for these lines, you usually make castling first and bishop remains on c1 to have the e-file open for your heavy pieces. So I think it makes sense to stop the pawn by playing a3. Bishop b7. Okay. And queen to e2. That is what I wanted to do. So h5 is an interesting try, but well, it's just one of many interesting approaches for black in this position. There is no must in playing h5. Knight to e5 again looks very logical. So knight goes to c4. And probably I a bit misplayed it. So basically, it's okay to give up this bishop if knight goes to c4 and takes on e3. But there is a problem with the a3 pawn, which is hanging. I don't really like it. So, I mean, if I castle now, then knight c4 creates a sort of knight takes a3. Is there some tactics with taking on b5 with the knight? I don't think so. I don't think so. So why h4 instead of all this? Because then rook goes to h3 if necessary, and the knight on c3 is protected in many lines. Now I think I'm in trouble a bit. Yeah, it will be just very stupid to play rook to d1, knight c4, bishop to c1. It's also a playable thing, of course. But still, it does nothing against knight takes a3. Okay, let's change the plan. I admit, I just misplayed it. I misplayed it, for sure. But okay. Knight to d7. And bishop to c1. Okay, now, yeah, basically knight a3 is still possible. I mean, if rook takes, then b4. But then rook to b3, takes c3, rook c3, I'm fine. And the point behind it, at some point I can play b3, bishop to b2. That's the idea. Well, sometimes white plays like this, but anyway, it doesn't look very attractive now. All right, let's go. It's time to achieve something at least. Oh, this is just a big mistake. My God. That was so important pawn. And g7 drops. Now it's lost. Now it's lost for black. Yeah, I was extremely lucky in this game, honestly. After misplaying it. Alright, now so many attractive ways of continuing this. Let's try the easiest. Let's try the easiest one. Just collecting 2 pawns and yeah. There is nothing to discuss any longer. It was just a big blunder. That was just a huge blunder. All right. And knight e4 collects the queen. Knight e4 collects the queen. And the rest should be not very hard. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what should be the correct order of moves here? Because black got the good position. So first off, if I want to play g5, I think bishop g2 is already kind of extra move, so I don't have to make it. So g5, knight to d7, and bishop to e3, as far as I remember, is the main line. Why don't I protect g5 pawn? Because in this case, there is a trick with knight takes e6, f takes e6, and queen h5. I mean, I regain the piece, regain the pawn, and I have pair of bishops, which is very attractive. So pawn on g5 is not hanging. Probably black continues the same way, like queen c7. And now you play h4. After b5, you play still this a3. First of all, we may notice that my bishop covers c4, which is quite good. Then after, say, bishop b7, white can play queen e2. Knight goes to b6. Rook goes to h3. No, castles. After knight c4, if I'm not mistaken, rook goes to h3. So this way. I mean, now my rook controls the third rank, but does it really help me? I mean, after knight takes a3, there is probably no improvement. All right, I have to check the move order. I don't quite remember it. Probably white even doesn't play this queen to e2. Maybe white plays just queen d2. Yeah, that is probably the problem. I just mixed some lines. So let's say rook h3, knight b6. I just play queen d2. Yeah, that's the point. And if knight c4, okay, I just take it. Queen takes c4, I just castle, and then h5 quickly, g6 or f4, f5, and so forth. Yeah, probably that is the lie. All right, never mind. So the way I played it was just super ugly. Black played correctly. So b5, a3, bishop b7, queen e2, knight to e5, very nice. I played here. Now knight to c4 looks very attractive. So I think knight to c4 should have been played. With the following idea, after bishop c1, maybe not knight to d7, but knight to c6, just attacking my knight, which is not protected. And if I exchange it, okay, black should be just completely fine here. Having counterplay based on a5 and b4 then. So I'm not in time to create any serious threat here. So if I play f4, okay, just castle. I don't think black should be afraid of all this crazy moves like f5 and so on. Black should be okay. For example, after f5, it's possible just to go away with the rook to prepare bishop to f8 move. Yeah, so white is not developed, so maybe even something like e takes f5 is possible here. And after, say, ef5, bishop g2, queen g2, white has almost nothing to attack with. So yeah, maybe some squares like d5 and so forth, but black also has some good pieces here, so something like queen here, king goes away. Dunno. Still not very clear position, but I have a feeling that somewhere here black should be okay. Somewhere in this direction. But knight e7 is also not a bad move. Even what black played in this game was not bad. So after f4, maybe some sort of combination was already possible. You know, knight takes a3, rook takes a3, then b4. Well, probably I still have rook to b3 move. And this is not entirely clear. Again, I have a feeling that simple castling should be okay for black. Or even knight to b6. Because I cannot really play b3 in this position in view of knight takes a3. And my knight on c3 is hanging. This looks awful for white. Yeah, so probably something like this. Or maybe even, well, if you play h6, of course, I have g6. No, it's not a very good idea to play h6 in this position. But yeah, something like knight b6 or maybe knight to c5 was interesting to try. But my main recommendation is to try to attack the knight d4. For that, you should have played knight to c6 instead of knight to d7. Just to get rid of my main attacking piece, which is in the center now. Without this knight, it's usually quite hard for white to achieve anything within this pawn structure. Just my feeling. Alright, anyways. Let's continue. Let us continue. And one more game against the guy I've never ever played before, where after we just go back to normal order of challenges. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. Papierflieger 2016, if I'm correct. Let's play. Never played before. And white pieces. Let's go. Jacob asks, how may I play you? As far as I understand, you're not premium users, so unfortunately there is no way. So go premium and then you have the right to play. Papierflieger. Wo bist du? What's going on, man? It's your turn. Are you online? Yes, you are. And I already made my move, so let's go. I will be waiting for maybe 10 seconds more. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Abort. Sorry. So, let's go further. Let's go further. So the guy from Lebanon, I never ever played before. Premium user as well, so I'll accept that challenge. Also with white pieces. Let's play 4. And, okay, here's the response. So let's play. Again, Sicilian, but now the line that I sometimes play in Blitz. But I usually play a6 instead of that, instead of knight c6, which is, well, just a question of taste, I would say. And a6 here, well, one of the main reactions to f4. So knight takes c6, bc6, and let's go short. So bishop d3, okay, bishop c5, never seen this before. So usually black reacts with the d5, and then we have this typical position with pawns e4, f4 against this pawn fist in the center. Bishop c5 stops me from castling. On the other hand, weakens g7, so probably I can attack g7 right now with the queen g4 move. There is also an idea of just playing knight to a4, and there is also an idea of just playing e5, in fact, preparing knight to e4, disturbing that bishop. What is the best way to play this? I'm not quite sure, but I'm somehow tempted to try e5. Okay. And knight to e4 with the tempo. I think after e5, d5 was a move, stopping me from knight e4 at least. Because now, looks terrible for black if he loses this bishop. Or if this bishop goes away, I have knight d6. There is also a question how to protect this bishop. Queen a5, I just play bishop d2 with the tempo. Doesn't look good for black, for sure. So I have a feeling that black misplayed it. I'm not sure that bishop c5 is a mistake or inaccuracy, but definitely knight e7 looks quite dubious after e5. And my opponent started thinking, well, it may be already late to think, my friend. But, of course, take your time. Knight e5. Okay, tricky move. So if I take on c5, there's queen a5, check, regaining the piece. So in fact, I don't win the piece if I take on c5. And if I don't take on c5, actually what happens, a bishop can go to e7. But what if I just play c4 now, and then knight goes to e3? Most likely, I will have very annoying move queen to e2 attacking this knight. And the bishop will be still hanging. So then the knight will probably go to f5, in which case I can do not so much, I think. Alright, after c4, knight to e3, there is a chance to play queen to d2, by the way. Very tricky position, so in that case I can actually achieve the goal of bringing my knight to d6 at some point. But after c4 there is also knight to b4, and if I take the bishop there is queen a5 anyway. And then if I go away with the knight, there is knight d3 double check. King goes to, you know, f1. Queen on a5 is hanging. And I probably win that knight on d3, in fact. But there is also knight c2. Wow. Position becomes quite complicated. I'm not quite sure if I achieve what I want, but I'm very tempted to try this anyway. So let's go for it. Maybe there is bishop b4 check, of course. But bishop b4 is not very well placed, in my opinion. And I can potentially use it. Also, after bishop b4 check, I have bishop d2, which is nice. So if I exchange this bishop, that is actually what I want to achieve. So let's see. Bishop b4, yeah, I'm tempted to play bishop d2. So if knight e3, if knight f4 to start with, I just take on b4, and I'm just a minor piece up. Should be good enough. If knight goes to e3, I play queen to e2, let's say. And again, I think my position is good. So let's try it. It's also possible just to go away with the king here, just to play king f1, where the knight goes. If knight goes to b6, I have some like c5 even. This looks terrible for black. If knight goes to e7, this bishop may be trapped. Well, maybe king f1 is even better than playing bishop d2 here. Look at this. Maybe just king f1 or king e2 even. King e2 looks great. With the same idea, basically. With the same idea. Okay, let's try this crazy move. I know that it is probably not needed here, so something like simple bishop d2 should do the thing, but I'm not sure that the knight has a good square. I mean, okay. So the line from Kramnik student, bishop d2, knight f4, bishop b4, queen e5. So what? Just 2 pawns. I just castle there. Still extra minor piece. I saw that line, by the way. So 97, now the bishop is in trouble. Now the bishop is in trouble. The question is, after bishop a5, should I play c5 to play b4 next move, or should I just play b4, bishop b6, c5, and just force that guy to a7? Both look very attractive, and then knight just goes to d6 with check. Oh my god, it's just a dream position. I'll probably just play b4, c5 without much thinking about all this complications. Okay, but here is d5, which is not that great. I think I can go away with the knight. I can also just do this. Now I think it makes sense. To win some material, I have much better pawn structure. I have extra pawn. I have pair of bishops, so too many advantages. Too many advantages for black to survive it. All right. So, white has strategically winning position, but only 57 seconds, which I think will be not that big issue. But I have to be careful. Obviously, black is still in the game. All right, let's bring the bishop to e3. We're gonna complete a development. Maybe not the best move. But anyways, looks nice. So how to prevent the development? Rook to d1. Bishop cannot go to d7, that's important. Probably black wanted to try to save it. Knight to f5 should have been played immediately, because now it's a bit late. Should be late. So I play bishop c5. b5 was also just a good finish. But this also looks just good enough. Also looks just good enough. Okay, b5 now. and pawn. Let's go. All right. So I already said what I think about this. So bishop c5 is probably strange. So it puts the bishop on the vulnerable position, although it looks very attractive at first glance because it deprives me of castling, but potentially I can still castle on if necessary. And actually, as we saw in this game, sometimes my king can remain in the center or something like this. So I would say d5 is the main line here. d5, castles, knight to f6. Now bishop d2, bishop e7, queen to e2, castles, and then it depends. So king h1, rook goes to e1, and then white tries to play e5 at the right moment to bring the rook to h3, and black tries to come up with the counterplay along the b file and in the center, so to play c5 at the right moment and so on. So lots of games played in this line. I saw some interesting games played by Adams as white. There were some also great opponents. So Anish Giri played this as black, and well, you can just check the database, a lot of material to learn. But after this, bishop c5, okay, e5, I'm not sure it is the best move. Maybe queen g4 was the most logical reaction, just to attack g7, which was weakened after bishop c5. After e5, I guess d5 was a move. In which case, I wanted to try either just taking, and if queen takes, I have knight e4 and I grab the bishop, which is great. And if bishop takes on d6, okay, also not a big deal for me. I can continue with the knight e4, probably. Even thinking of sacrificing the pawn on f4, but get into dark squares potentially. And I'm not sure that bishop f4 is a good idea because of this queen g4 attacking the bishop and g7. So it should be calculated, should be analyzed additionally. If bishop goes away, this means I just won several tempi, and I still have the pawn structure, which can potentially arise from the main line. So I did nothing wrong, actually, with my position. But d5 deserved attention, for sure, just to prevent me from playing knight to e4. Because after knight e7 and knight e4, I think my position is very close to strategically winning one, because I either go to d6, making your king just struggle, or I just grab your bishop, which is also great for me. So I have more space, I have pair of bishops, I have this great control of dark squares and so forth. And after this, well, bishop b4 is a possibility, of course, but I thought you would play something like knight to b4. In that case, however, I think I still can take here, and if queen a5, I just go knight b3, giving you a chance to check me with this double check after knight takes d3, but then after king f1, I thought there is no clear way for you to save the queen, which is attacked, and the knight at the same time. So I'm a material up here in this position. So yeah, knight b4 was bad. So probably bishop b4, okay. But then after king e2, there is no good way for you to avoid this. So basically, if you play bishop a5, I just play this, and then knight d6, and I think there is no necessity of actually discussing this position. It's absolutely winning for white with such a great knight on d6, which so much space at his disposal, and completely imprisoned queen side. So the queen, the pair of bishops, the rook on a8, so everything is just out of play. All right, so thank you very much for this experience anyway, and let's have a look at probably one more game against a newcomer. There is whom? Well, lots of people, actually. Lots of people. Let's play slow Gene. Accept. Interesting question. Andrey, did you ever study psychology in your pursuit of chess mastery? So, I did actually study psychology in university as a course. just a course, and I definitely read some interesting articles on this topic, but I cannot really call it really a study. All right, but that's, yeah, that's an interesting area for sure, and should not be neglected, because lots of mistakes are usually based on psychology, in fact. Okay, rook to e1, b5. Castles. And d4 without playing h3, which gives me a chance to play bishop g4. Bishop e3, the main line. There is also d5. So I cannot take on e4 because of bishop d5. Attacking two knights, so it's a well-known trap. So I should play bishop h5. To have knight g4 as a threat, potentially. And also just going away in advance, because this bishop will be attacked sooner or later with the h3 move. How much of the chess game is psychology in your opinion, Andrey? Asks X. Well, if we talk about the game between more or less experienced and more or less equal opponents, I think it is something like 30% for sure, no less. All right, a4 was played, which is definitely one of possibilities here. This weekend's b4 square, so probably I can try some like ed4, cd4, and knight to b4, followed by c5, one of possible plans here. Not sure that I can play knight g4 here because of bishop d5. That is definitely a bad idea for me. So I'm tempted to try this. Since a4 weakens b4, why not to try to put the knight there, controlling a lot of important squares and preparing the play against white center. So the cd4, by the way, d5 is also an interesting move. And if e5, then knight e4, and another knight to b4, or maybe a5, c4 still in the air. But okay, bishop d4 cannot be a good idea here. So now I have pair of bishops, which is very, very helpful. So let's go. Let's go and open up a position. All right. So it looks like I can go really aggressive, like c4 now. Then b4. Just grabbing the space, move by move, winning tempi. I think it's never bad if you have such an option. And now I can take on d5, which also looks very nice for black. White no longer has this good center to start with. The pawn structure became quite ugly. So, all right. Bishop f6 now, just starting exerting some pressure on this vulnerable pawn on d4. d5 is also not that great, so at some point I will attack it, I guess. And because these pawns are doubled, I have like pawn majority now on the queen side, like c4, b4 against b2. 2 against 1 or 3 against 2, if you will. Very good position for black, I mean. Don GK. Nice. Very, very nice. Okay, now, what do I want for my pawn structure? There. So I can basically do what I want, actually. Lots of different things. So queen to a5, attacking d5 looks interesting. Something like straightforward play a5, then rook c8, and then c3 also looks quite promising. So like b3 followed by this breakthrough c3. I don't even know which one is better. So if I play queen a5, is there some tactics like bishop h7, king h7, knight g5, bishop g5, queen h5? Alright, I have bishop h6 there. I'm fine, seemingly. So let's play queen a5. Let's try this move. Not really an attack of d5 because white still has bishop e4. But at some point this pawn will become vulnerable. Interesting question, which pawn should take on g6? Conventional think is, of course, h takes g6. But if we remember the game between Aluhin, or Elekine, if you will, and Rubinstein, in a similar situation there was f takes g6 because the f file is quite weak. So I'm tempted to try this one. Because my rook now starts working along the f file. And knight f3, f4 square, f2 become my objects of attack. Just right away. Okay, now I can take this central pawn d5. I love my position here. And this is a blunder. In a bad position already, of course. Well, if I take on h3, there is potentially a problem with rook a3 attacking my queen, but I still have this square on h4. So I guess I can go greedy if I want. I can also just take on e2, bishop d4 should be absolutely winning. Alright. Whenever I see a simple way, I go the simple way. All right, checkmate. So I think a4 is already not the main line, definitely. So instead of playing a4, white usually does some like knight e2 or even just h3 covering g4 square, where black has a choice between going crazy after d5 or playing something conventional like d4, cd4, knight a5, knight c4, then c5, and so on. But a4, in my opinion, is not a big mistake. So after ed4, cd4 was still possible, it's still playable. And after that, I wanted to play knight to b4. Now I have a threat of taking on e4, so you have to protect it somehow, and probably knight c3 is a way to do that. In which case, I wanted to try something like either knight g4 or maybe c5 or maybe d5. I'm not quite sure. So d5 looks interesting. So if you play e5, I just go to e4 and we have something standard. But for this, I think I need my knight on a5 actually. So maybe I would have played In this case, something like d5 first, but then you have a takes b5. Yeah, so maybe it's just okay for white. Looks like a playable, absolutely normal position. I'm not quite sure what is the theory there, because I'm quite lazy in the sense of learning the theory, but feels like it's still okay, more or less what white wants to achieve usually here. But bishop takes d4 is definitely bad, so now I have no problems, absolutely. Have pair of bishops, and the rest of the game just proved it. So I just grab the space, and so forth. My play just goes automatically. That's it. Yeah, all right. Let's go further and go to normal order of challenges. Here is Kramnik student. The first challenger today, depends on where you are. And I'm playing with black. And closed, which is interesting, because usually Kramnik student plays something open. All right. All right. So should we deal with his preparation somehow? Maybe we should play e5 just to go absolutely crazy. Or we just start with knight to c6, I think. Preparing e5. I think pawn sacrifice is good for blitz game. In that case, because I get some tempi, should be doing good. But I'm still not so sure that it is the best way of playing that, so let's just play normal chess. Castle's long. Super aggressive guy. Super aggressive guy. Probably not that bad. Probably not that bad idea. On the other hand, now I can play knight to e4. Bishop d8, knight takes c3, and I have slightly better pawn structure in that ending. So I'm gonna try this one. So the rook is on d1, which means after bishop d8, knight takes c3, the bishop cannot go away because I take the rook. So bc3 is probably forced. And then I take the bishop, and I have slightly better pawn structure. But it doesn't mean I'm better. I think it's just a very comfortable, equal position. And f takes c4 also gives me a better pawn structure here. And actually, white no longer has pair of bishops, which is very nice for black, I think. So now my task is to prevent this pawn rolling somehow. So e5 looks very natural now. And, well, the pawns are fixed. The pawns are fixed the way I want it. Now where to go with knight, that's the question. I think c5 is the best position for it, so let's go to b8. There is no attack whatsoever on the king side, I believe. Because I have no weaknesses there. I mean, it will take a lot of time. The bishop is bad on f1. It is not better on d3 or e2. So king b1. Okay. Let's start with preparing the c5 position for the knight. Now let's go and occupy it. All right, it's a typical advantage for black here. Much better pawn structure, but there is still a question if I can use it. I think the most natural plan now is just to play bishop d7, b5, and actually attack b2 pawn, which is fixed. James Harden says that he's gonna beat me. Okay. Okay. Dangerous. Danger. Danger. So this position is just strategically lost for white, but it doesn't mean that white actually used all his tricks here, so there are still some possibilities to make me feel not very comfortable. Should I react to this h5? If pawn goes to h6, okay, I played g6, so what? I don't think there will be anything serious. So let's continue with our own plan, just b5. Knight h4. Again, don't see a big danger, so let's take on c4. Just continuing with the plan. So b file is open now. Okay, I'll capture it. Rook takes f5. There are still no threats, so probably we should do what? Continue with the plan, right? Just play rook to b8, rook b6, and then another rook to b8, something like this. I wanted to try. Or maybe it's a good idea to play h6 now, then just f6. And the only problem I will have is pawn on g7, which is absolutely manageable. Problem, in fact. Okay, let's start with this move. I mean, then we'll see what to do. Well, I don't believe in rook f7, so I will continue with the plan. Maybe I will regret. Maybe. But no, I don't think so. So where the queen can potentially get after rook f7 and all this? To e1, then to f2 check, let's say. Okay, I go to e7, queen h4 check, into d7 after all. I'll have something like this. I think it takes so much time to create a thread there, while I'm ready to play rook b8 and then just grab b2. Alright, but that is probably the best chance for white anyway. Queen c4, okay, doesn't create a threat to me. So let's continue with the plan. And queen to f1, alright. King e7, that's what I wanted to play. No checks from f1. If I'm checked from f1, there is no follow-up checks, I mean. Which means b2 is in trouble, buddy. b2 is in trouble. And, okay. Let's take that. Now I can take on e4, which looks just amazing. I mean, tremendous. But probably it makes sense to start with the b2, or maybe just to continue with the attack. I can also play rook f8. I think almost everything is winning now. Almost everything is winning now. Do I really need this pawn on e4? Then king goes to b2. I'm not quite sure in all of this. So let's try this thing instead. Oh, there is bishop g4 check. Oh my god, I missed that. All right, I'm a bit stupid at this stage. Fortunately, I had this rook f8, rook f6 because I completely missed that idea. Okay. This should be still winning for black, but no longer that easy if compared to what I had before. All right, one on time, but position is anyway just absolutely winning. I think I started playing a bullshit somewhere here, so this rook to a8 was a bad move. I should have tried rook f8 immediately, or maybe knight takes c4 simply, just creating a threat of knight to d2, knight to c3, and so forth. But in this case, there is queen e1, creating a threat of queen h4. Maybe also not so comfortable as I wanted to make it. So don't know. Maybe just completely forgetting about this flank and changing for the f file. So let's say queen goes to e1 now. Creating sort of queen h4. First of all, it's not a big deal. By the way, I can play g5, preventing it, but then queen g3 attacking that pawn. So maybe it's better for me just to play like this. And if queen h4, just to play like this. Rook b8, then rook goes here, then king goes away, and I just go to f1, f2, and so forth. That was probably the most comfortable way of just, winning this. But anyway, it's just a winning position, and black had a winning position for a long time. So somewhere starting from this f takes e4, I think it's already very dubious. So it was still much better for white just to grab the queen, and after knight c3, bc3, rook to d8, just to play e4. Okay, there is a weakness of c4, c3, a3 pawns, but white can compensate it with great center and with just much more space or something. But definitely black has some play. So probably white has to think of playing c5 at some point if it is possible. Black's plan is quite straightforward. So black will play b6, then knight to a5, then bishop to a6, just trying to grab this c4 pawn. White will have to do something to protect it. Maybe it's not that simple. That's why I think c5 at some point should be played. But if you want to actually avoid all these complications, it's better to care about this in advance. I mean, probably not to put the bishop on g5 at all, just to play b3, bishop b2, or if you already have the bishop on g5, there should be something like queen c2 played. So probably you have to spend the time on e3, but it already looks like a mix of plans. So most likely I would have chosen something like e4 here. So yeah, I can play e5, but then d5, knight to d4, all right, something like b4, maybe knight to e2. So typical thing for this pawn structure. Okay, I have some temporal activity here. I have a better development, but after all, you have lots of pawns in the center. They all protect each other. You have a pair of bishops, so should be not that bad for white as an idea. But okay. Was a nice try. I understand that you wanted to castle long and just to beat me, but I just had a good idea of playing knight e4 at some point, just to neutralize all this attack. Okay, let's go further. Next is Antons from Germany. And there is a slight problem at the moment because I lost my chat, so trying to actually fix it, but it takes time. So for some time I'm a bit blind in the sense of what you write there, so you can probably write something okay, do what you want, I mean. So e5, let me remember. And d takes c5 or just knight f3. Let's play just knight f3, I mean, why not? Shouldn't be that bad. Shouldn't be that bad. Knight f6, knight to c3. And what do we have? We just have this. Hanem variation, or how's it called? I don't remember. And h6. That is something I have never seen before. So I can play just ignoring it. I mean, so like a4, bishop a2, castling h3, so typical play here. What if I take on e5? I think d takes e5, I achieve nothing. Absolutely. And d5, d5, bishop f7, king f7, knight e5, just king goes away. I don't think it's correct. So I mean, let's start this typical play. Oh, nice question from Typhus X. Tonight, Andrey Ostrovskiy doesn't make any music. And if I may ask, what about your so-called best student? So, actually, Mark, at the moment, is not in Germany. So, he visits his Ukrainian grandparents. That's why he's silent. Also, as for my best student, you probably mean my dog, Joy. He's usually quite silent, so he doesn't make any noise. All right. Hopefully I answered your question. All right, c6, bishop just goes away. In advance again, say h3. Probably black wants to play something like g5, g4 and just attack me. Maybe. No, castles. All right. Good. Now, rook e1 or bishop e3 or even knight to h4 looks interesting because there is g6, which is weak. There's g6, which is weak. Doesn't give me anything. I mean, if I play just knight h4 straightforwardly, what is going on there? Knight takes e4, I have intermediate move, probably like knight to g6. Knight c3 takes rook. No, I don't think I'm ready for that, so let's start rook e1. Rook e8. Well, let me remember, what is the plan here for me in general? Never played this, which white pieces somehow avoided this line for this or that reason. Okay, what if I just play d5? No, d5 is usually good when black already played b6 or something. Maybe I should start with the a5 move. I don't know, grab an additional space. Black just ignores everything. Wow. Okay, what about knight h4 now? Then bishop goes to e6 or something. Not sure, so no longer have a lot of time, actually. Have to play faster, so I just make natural moves. I mean, naturally looking moves. So queen d2. What about taking on h6 now? Just a stupid idea, I guess. Just very, very bad one. But maybe my opponent will be somewhat confused. Maybe not. You know, I'm going to lose the game, I think, with such a bad situation on the clock and absolutely unclear position. Or maybe it's already absolutely clear. I mean, I don't think bishop h6 is a correct move. Oh my god. All right, now what to do? Probably have to try to open up a position. My goodness, I'm losing the queen, right? No, bishop f8, queen g5. Fortunately, I'm not gonna lose it. But now what to do? Bishop f7, queen h7 is nothing, absolutely. g3 is probably an interesting move. It feels very bad. Feels very, very bad now. That's probably just a lost position for white. And that's what you get when you go for a position where you don't have enough experience, having limited time. You're just in trouble, inevitably. All right, but let's play positional chess. So h4, h5 should give me some play, I guess. But there is still no time on the clock, which is very annoying. Okay, should I take? Have no idea, but have no time at the same time. So I just take it, okay. Let's continue with this. Oh no, this is very bad. My goodness, it's so bad. It's so bad now. Yeah, it's just a completely misplayed game. Yeah, it's over. It's over now. It's over now. Of course, bishop h6 was just so bad. I mean, I somehow forgot about this knight f4 move, so idea was to attack two knights because f7 is pinned, but that was just a typical time trouble shot, so I just wanted to clarify the things quickly. Of course, it was necessary to do something else here, maybe even earlier, so I was just playing not so good. Simply not so good, so knight h4 deserved attention at some point, maybe just right away or something like this. Just intending to get there. There is also some active plan, like connect with the d5 at some point. It was very hard to actually understand at which moment what is good for white and what is not, because there are some nuances here, and we should remember the theory very well to understand at which point actually you should do what. There are different maneuvers that white can come up with. So some ideas include, for example, when the bishop is on e3, you just play bishop b3, queen b1, queen a2, attacking this f7, and so on. All right, never mind. Interesting game, and yeah, I was just destroyed. Next one, Trollfjord Paddler, accept. Trollfjord Paddler. Okay. So let us still play d6. Intending to play e5. Bishop d2. Alright, so white basically prepares a3 to capture with the bishop there. I'm gonna try this one. So what if I just save the bishop on the board? I mean, just want to try this line. It's probably not very good for black, but still there is an idea behind. So I don't take on c3, helping white perform what he wants. Just in exchange, queen remains on this very good position on c2, preparing e4, and the bishop occupies great position on c3. Instead, I just save the bishop on the board. Now what? So is there a threat? Probably bishop f4 is the idea. Anything else looks not very convincing. let's try knight to c6. Intended knight d4. And e3 covering d4, but this also means that the bishop is quite passive on d2. Okay, should be considered as the sort of achievement for black, I guess. Still have to find a good square for my queen. So basically, I'm not sure what I want to do with the pawn structure. Probably just to put the bishop on c7, to attack h2, then to play b6 and bishop to b7. Looks like a good alternative. Also to cover d6, because at some point it can become a liability. Because if I play e5, it actually justifies white's setup, so the knight jumps to d5 at some point and so forth. Alright, let's do it. Let's just try it at first place. Bishop e2. Okay, here I wanted to try queen e7. And now at some point I wanted to play b6, bishop b7. Is it really a good idea? I'm not sure, but it looks natural. So if I want to activate my light square bishop at the same time, not weakening d5 or something, I guess it's the way to do that. Now b5. Of course, I don't want to give up this bishop. I considered bishop c3 as a follow-up of this. But okay, knight goes back to c3. It looks like just a waste of time. But still, position is balanced, I think. So the pawn structure is almost completely symmetrical. It's really hard to find an object of attack here. But after knight e4, I think I can take on e4 and play knight to d4, actually. At least I'll grab the bishop, right? This may change the situation slightly. So the queen is attacked by my bishop, that's what I mean. I can also just grab on f3, damaging the pawn structure. This can be also an idea. This can be also an idea. I think it is much more promising, so let's try that. All right, and now something like check. Queen h5 now. And queen h2 checkmate. So I'm so sorry, but that was a big blunder. Of course, f4 should have been played here to avoid it, but in that case, I saw this possibility. Check here, and bishop takes f4. Queen is hanging. So basically knight e4 was the decisive mistake here. Before that, everything was fine, but actually knight b5 followed by knight c3 was already the step in the wrong direction. So after knight b5, bishop to b8, I think bishop c3 was absolutely playable. Because now if I attack the knight, there is bishop takes f6, and if I don't want to give white a chance to jump to d6 with the knight, I have to take with the pawn, which damages my pawn structure, which is not very, well, dangerous. But I guess it's sort of, well, achievement for white. But I think after g takes f6, of course, I should be absolutely all right with pair of bishops, and these pawns actually control a lot, so they are not that weak. And I can potentially put my pawn on f5, in which case I will close diagonal b1, h7, and so forth. So the point, if I take on f6 with the queen, there is knight d6, attacking the bishop. Intended knight e4 now. If I take on d6, rook d6 white is probably just better. Having much better coordinated pieces and so on. But okay, knight c3 wasn't just a terrible mistake whatsoever. It was just a waste of time, which is probably not that critical in a position which is almost completely closed and there are no concrete threats. But knight e4 was already a mistake. So instead of playing knight e4, it was much more interesting to try to maneuver the bishop. For example, I would have considered bishop c1 if played as white with the idea of b3, bishop b2, just improving position of that bishop, or maybe just doubling rooks along the d file, controlling that file and so forth. Yeah, position should be just equal, not more than that. The knight e4 is already quite, well, dubious. All right, maybe actually taking on f3 with the pawn immediately could have improved the thing, but I don't know, maybe not. So queen g5 still. King here. No, it's even worse because after queen h5 there is no even f4 because the pawn is pinned. Yeah, it's just lost automatically. Yeah, I guess that is just already bad for white. Okay, let's go further. Shelling forward is here. Accept. So let's try to play a decent game. All right. So direction was changed. Direction was changed. And what do we have here? We have, well, mix of different openings. Trompovsky, Verisov, sort of French defense, if you will. And yeah. Let's play it. Let's just play it. So white probably wants to attack, yeah. So that's what happens if you play queen e2. But I don't think that it is so great, because the king is still in the center. If it castles, there will be like bishop c3 possibility. So let's just undermine the center. Let's go active here in the center, trying to open up a position to get some counterplay and to get some space for my bishops. Now I can play d4 if I want, but there is a3. I can take on c3 then and play queen a5 if I want. So everything looks very attractive here. Let's try it. By the way, queen a5 immediately is also playable, potentially. Because if knight takes d4, I just take on c3, bc3, queen takes c3. Don't know. ab4, I just take on a1, which probably leads to knight to d1 or something. Have some extra material, but my pieces are far away from the queen's side. There's also an idea of just taking on c3 and taking on b2. Too many options. Too many options, and I have to make my decision quickly. Let's take here. And queen a5. Should be just okay for black. I mean, create some concrete threats here. I think it's a good idea to exchange queens because potentially white's attack could have been annoying. But without queens on the board, I don't think there is an attack at all. This pawn on c5 looks bad. I mean, I can easily win it, probably. If I will save my pawn on c3, I will be a pawn up, most likely. If not, alright. I'll be just like simply okay. I mean, what to do now? Knight to c5 looks like a move. Controlling b3, exerting some pressure on that bishop. Is it really so good? I mean, knight d3, cd3, what, bishop a6. But then my pawn on c3 might be attacked somehow. On the other hand, well, it cannot be bad for black. I mean, I can basically start with this move, exerting some pressure on this bishop. And now I just take on d3. Okay, so shelling is not in a good shape tonight. I mean, if cd3, there is c2. If rook d3, then bishop a6, and I should be winning. But he will definitely find some tricks here, I believe. So there is also a threat of just knight f4 check now. And then knight to d5. So white basically has to do something with the threat of this knight f4. Okay. What's going on here? So let's take just extra exchange. I still have to convert it, of course. Still have to convert it. It will be a shame not to win this game. Just completely winning position. I have to be careful anyway. Till the very end. Because it's Lucas. Lucas is a very tricky guy. All right. Checkmate. Don't remember when it was the last time, or was there even one time when I checkmated Lucas, but all right. So there is something strange starting from the opening. I'm not sure that g4 is a good idea here, to be honest, because, well, it's not clear where to go with the king. Probably I would have played something like, you know, a3 at some point, just clarifying the position of the bishop first, because if the bishop comes back to e7, which is quite typical for this situation, then basically you just castle on and play g4, h4, and so forth. And I would have done this even here, maybe just playing a3, bishop c3, bc3, and so forth. Also, one interesting thing, I'm not sure that after h6 here, it's a good idea just to take. Maybe just wait in one move. For one move was an interesting try, because after bishop h4, well, if I play d5, you get what you want, you just play e4. And if I don't play like d5, then you can play e4 next move, just without even capturing on f6. Unless I play bishop b4, which you can meet with the a3, I think. All right. Let's continue. So, Azure missed is my next, I hope, victim. So, let's go. And Sicilian, and probably Azure will show me what to do against h3, just playing h5 at some point. Maybe even immediately. Question from Zweihoseks: to whom did Andrey lose tonight? To Antons from Germany. Okay. It's a safe line. I mean, if black plays everything correctly, then white has only just super tiny advantage. Super tiny advantage. I mean, very hard to win. I played this many times, including over the board in classic chess as white. Yeah, so it's a good line for white if he doesn't want to take any risk. And yeah, just to have very annoying pressure on opponent's position. Swahuzek says, can I dare ask you a third time, Andrey, about what? Probably I missed some questions from you in chat. Yeah, please do, just ask me. The answer to your question, yes. I'm at home, fortunately. Maybe even on Saturday, but I'm not sure, but on Sunday for sure. 100%. Question from Oli. Andrey, could you give Medley a game? He's a new premium. All right. All right, Oli. How can I say no? Knight to c6. Okay, so this is strange because I can basically take on f6 now, but black will probably take with a pawn. Maybe black is not going even to go away with the bishop from there, but at some point it will be needed. So let's just continue development the normal way. So next game will be against Medley. Knight to d4. Alright. This is a possible way of playing it, actually. Pawn on h5 still hanging, I mean. So black cannot castle. On the other hand, what to do with this knight on d4? Knight e2 is a typical thing to try. Maybe just right away. Yeah, let's try it right away. Which is nice, this rook g8 topic. It's just like a hype. Rook g8 is the move of 2018. No. Rook g8 is just a normal move there in that position, I mean. Nothing special. So my personal opinion that's actually the game Kuryakin Mamidyar from the round 1 is much more instructive and interesting than that one between Aronian and Kramnik. However, of course, who cares about what is instructive and what is not? Sense of spectacular chess, of course. That game of Kramnik was much better. But that one was just great. I mean, you can learn a lot from that game, from that queen ending, for example, and so on. All right. Kramnik asks if I feel the same way. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a good game, maybe even a great game, but not that great. So that's, I mean, it's definitely not a game like Steinitz against Bardelev, and it's definitely not that great. Like, I don't know, Topalov against Shirov, that amazing sacrifice and opposing colored bishop endings. And yeah, so yeah, just another good game of Kramnik, something like this. I don't feel like it is anything special. By the way, even Kramnik thinks that there was nothing special about that game. Okay, so what to do now? So I have to focus on the game. We have opposing colored bishops now, the middle game stage, and my bishop is much better than the one of black's, but I still have to prove anything here. So probably I need my rooks on the f file, on the king side at least. So rook d1, rook d3, rook f3, something like this. Looks very attractive now. So let's bring our heavy pieces there. Still can exert some pressure on that pawn, but first I need some flexibility. So let's put both rooks on d file, I think, just to have some threats based on, say, bishop moving away. So bishop b7 was, by the way, possible already at some point. Maybe it's a good idea to play it now, but I'm not sure that I will save that bishop after bishop b7, rook b8, bishop a6, and rook b6. It might be trapped. So let's forget about that for now. Let us just test black's position. So for example, bishop a2 to start with. Bishop f4. Okay. Now say queen g4. Already created some threats. Rook c6. Okay, my threat was to take on d6, then to take the rook on c8 there. But I have also some ideas like queen f5 right now, or maybe a bit later. Okay, why not right now? And this gives me some material for sure. So now I can take on f7 with the queen or with the bishop. I think with the queen. Now bishop goes here to f5. Yeah, black was very close, but actually such a position after all these exchanges, I know that I played not the best way. I was more or less focused on chat at that moment. But even after all this misplayed things, I mean, somewhere here when the bishop was on f6, I could have captured it, actually damaging the pawn structure. So here, let's see. Takes 95, bishop b6 to start with this moment, so I could have simply captured on f6 with a better pawn structure, because queen f6 I just take on d6. Yeah, so here after knight c6 there is no longer a possibility to do the same, because probably black can just take with the queen and then rook to d8 with a great compensation. So the moment was lost. And here of course knight e2 is just too early, I guess. Simply castling, bishop b3 maybe, and so forth. But who knows? Maybe it's nothing special. The whole line is nothing special actually. So here after this, and this actually position is one-sided, because well, my bishop is much better than this one. This bishop has no objects of attack, while my bishop has. So f7 pawn and yeah, this a6 one. Basically I cannot take the pawn right now after rook b8, bishop here, and queen b6 I just lose the bishop. But probably I missed the chance to do something like that a bit later. So I played a3, bishops here, rook here, queen f6. Yeah, maybe here. Here I could have played. There's bishop b7 and bishop takes a6, so it's not possible to trap it. Yeah, so this makes this queen f6 just mistake, just a blunder, and rook d3 is blunder in the response. Now I no longer have a chance to do that while my rook is on d3, so if I play this, all right, so then rook b6, and that's it. So bishop is over. Bishop is done. So rook d1 then, rook here, bishop a2, bishop f4, queen g4. Of course there is no need in losing the pawn on f7, so queen f6 was completely okay here for black, and position should be balanced, but well, only white can create threats here. I mean, only white can hope for something, and basically it's quite a simple play for white as for Blitz, I guess. So let's play madly, right? That was my intention. Where is madly? Where is madly's challenge? Let's search for it. Here it is. Accept. e4. Let's go. e5. Oh, aggressive opponent. Aggressive opponent. All right then. Let's try to be careful. But g3, That is something new to me. Maybe I'm just stupid, maybe it's just a main line or something, but I don't think so. It looks too slow to me. Let's grab the knight. And play h5. I mean, it's definitely not the best way of playing it, but I'm somehow tempted to try that when I see g3. And I do believe that black should be just all right here in any line after g3. But of course it was much better to try something like knight c6, maybe bishop g4 and so on. But h4, wow, weakens g3 so much. And g4 at the same time. Looks already quite dubious. So let's put the bishop on g4. What is the main move after knight to e4? Something like d3, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe d4 followed by bishop d3. But g3 is, in my opinion, just not in the spirit of this opening. So it's something strange to me. Something really strange. I mean, white's position is not lost. It's probably not even that worse, but the pawn structure is obviously already better for black. Better for black for sure. No questions here. So how to play that correctly? We can undermine e5 potentially. So we can play something like knight e7, f6 after castling. Maybe just right away. Let's try it right away. I mean, knight e7 is a tempo move because they attack e5. So white has to play d4. Yep. And now f6. That's what I wanted to try. Again, attacking e5. And e6 just gives me a pawn. Can I take it? I think I have the time. So queen e2, bishop goes back, castles, castles. I think it should be all right. Yeah. Just a pawn. Castles. So to castle or to play bishop g4 back first? Let's play bishop g4 back first. Opinion the knight. Queen e1. Unpinion the knight. And that is quite smart. It's quite good. Probably bishop g4 wasn't the best idea. Now I have some problems with protecting my d5, so probably I have to do what? To start with knight b6 move. Otherwise, if I castle, there is knight h2 there in 9. So I have to care about this d5 pawn because it is a very important one. But what makes me feel comfortable more or less is that's actually that queen is on e1, not on e2, so there is no follow-up in the form of like rook to e1, but now I noticed bishop to a3. Oh my goodness. This is maybe not so simple now for me to make a correct decision. Okay, let's try queen d7. It cannot be bad. So just protect somehow everything. Oh, Madley is quite an imaginative player, I would say, so looks strange, I mean, all these ideas, but there is definitely something in it. Now I can basically play king f7, I think. It should be just okay. So let's do it, just, how to say, eliminate into the endgame. If my opponent, of course, gives me a chance to do that. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Probably I lose that pawn on g4 though. But I'm still feeling okay here. Should I go there? Not quite sure, but it feels like I have to protect g7 in case white will grab the pawn on g4. I will be definitely somehow obliged with this defense. g7 will be hanging in many cases. Right now, it's time to use the weakness of the queen side as fast as possible. So my point is to bring the rook to the c file at least with the help of the rook lift. So while white is actually busy by taking that g4 and then bringing the rook back to the game, I will just attack that guys. c3, c2, a2, and so forth. Rook e to f1. All right. Now I have some ideas connected with rook e2, rook e3. Rook e3 looks just great. Just a straightforward way of win this c3 without even like going through c6 or something, I guess. And takes here. That should be good position for black. Should be just a good position for black. Still have to convert it though, and there is no so much time at my disposal, so I have to be precise. Let's start with some improvement of the position. I think this a5, a4, a3 can be quite useful, quite helpful. And h5 I wanted to meet with this, rook h8. Sneaky move. All right, now I just continue with the plan, a4, a3. Probably it was better, slightly better to play c6 in fact. But hey, if white plays g4, the rook is out of play. I mean, if I play king e7, I should be okay, right? Should be just okay. I mean, g5 is possible, but then I just take the pawn. And if there is no g5, then the rook is out of play. So it looks good for black. All right, rook comes back to play, but that is another simplification. There is a sort of g5 now. Have to be very careful. Have to be very careful about that. Just play, you know, c6. All right, here I wanted to take this one on h5. Now I'm comfortable, absolutely. So rook just goes for that pawn on a2, or maybe the one on c2. I think a2 is the most logical object of attack. And I told you that a4 will be quite useful, right? Just to bring the pawn to the right place. Because I wanted to promote it, actually. All right, very interesting game, very interesting game. I'm not sure that g3 is a good idea. Maybe I just don't know this opening well. All right, so... but it feels like not something in the spirit of this opening, because white has to be very quick, aggressive, and so forth. Instead, white spends the time on the move, which is not necessarily that great. I mean, if we imagine that the bishop is on g2, I'm not sure that bishop occupies a perfect position. So it's much better to have this bishop on diagonal b1, h7, I would say. And in many cases, it inevitably leads to some weakening of the position. So Don't know. I don't like the idea of g3, but I believe that the way I reacted to this g3 wasn't the best and not the most convincing one. All right. Anyway, thank you for this experience. That was interesting. That was interesting. I had a feeling that at some point you were very close to obtaining a nice position. Probably e6 is not the move. So probably just take it on f6 and castling was just the way to play it. Okay, you have a lot of weaknesses, but I also have some weakening of the position. I mean, I committed some of them. So g5, e5 are squares for your knight. Potentially, your bishop can be activated through f4 if you take on f6. Probably you missed the fact that pawn was hanging, or maybe it was just a sacrifice that didn't work well. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much. Let's play one more, I think, the last one, because I'm already very tired. And we're doing this for 2 hours already, which is quite good, I hope. So one more against whom? Duke Crusher, accept. Duke Crusher, have not played for ages, I would say. My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm happy you're here again. So e3, c5. Knight good order of moves. Now queen b6 is not that great. So let's play just e6. Main line. Main line of the main lines. And e4 immediately. Wow. e4 immediately. I'm not sure that's a good idea. So I can imagine something like cd4, no, cd4 just e5, right? So bishop e7 is a typical way of counter-attack here. So if e5, I just play knight to h5. Now let's try bishop to e7. I'm gonna just go away, and now the center is attacked. Okay, just immediate reaction with the e5. Probably my opponent knows something here better than me. So I saw this position after queen e2, bishop b7, and then if e4, then bishop b7. So, but I think there is no big difference. There should be no big difference. I mean, probably white can save some time if he goes for, let's say, knight to g5 move. Yeah, because queen takes on h5 from d1, not from e2. But at the same time, I'm not sure that bishop on b7 is great. So probably it's also not a big deal for black. Okay, let's just take on g5. Let's play g6 with the tempo. Now d4 is hanging. I'm not sure how white is going to protect it. So I'm going to win some material, I think. Queen e2. Okay, so taking on d4 simply. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go active. h4 is also an active move, of course. And I think I want to save my bishop on the board. Because taking on d2 is just crazy. I mean, it's really crazy, so let's go away. Why it was crazy? Because I just give up the main defender of dark squares that are quite weakened at the moment. And probably there is a high probability of weakening them even more. Okay, h5. So now I can ignore probably not, because hg6, fg6, rook h7 is a threat. Then queen h5 and just checkmate. Okay, so I cannot ignore it. So probably I have to play g5 here, closing at least the h file. So Jose asks, why not knight g3 first? After knight g5, knight g3, bishop takes h7, check, king h8, h takes g3, and very quick checkmate, I think. Or maybe there is no checkmate, and this is all bluff, and actually I could have done this. I'm not sure, but was dangerous. I mean, felt dangerous at least. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong, simply. Okay, now it's time to take here. What to do next? So if f takes g5, I just take with the bishop. I think I'm still in the game. I mean, I'm not losing immediately. Should I play f5 here? It weakens position a lot, but at the same time it activates my pieces potentially. Yeah, let's try it. I know it's super risky. E takes f6, bishop f6, but I counterattack, so I attack c3. So we will see where it leads. Because white's king is also not that beautiful, I would say. Also has some problems with finding a safe place, right? Bishop c2, preparing super straightforward queen d3, just trying to checkmate me. Oh my god. This is annoying, I would say. This is annoying. Okay, but what if I just... protect this pawn on h7? And at the same time attack f4. Position is crazy. I mean, I also have some ideas now connected with knight to b4. Maybe even now. But then f takes g5. Bishop is already protected. Wow. Knight takes c2. King goes to d1. Bishop to e5. I'm probably fine there. Should I try it or not? Yeah, let's try it. This is anyway worth trying. Wow. What a game. What a game. I really love how the things look like right now. Amazing one. Don G says wild. Yes. Wild chess. At the end of the show, what can be better than this? What happened? FG5? Alright, so now I can take here. Let's check. I think it's great, because if king d1, then knight e3 just wins on the spot. Oh, king f2, there are so many checks now. I mean, bishop d4 should be decisive. Yeah, bishop d4 check. I cannot do anything else when I see such an opportunity. So just double check. Look at this. King e2, bishop a6. Wow, what a follow-up. Everything is developed now. Now knight e3 check. Oh my god, it should be huge. Queen takes c3 and checkmate next move. Wow, super nice. Great present. Closer to the end of the show. Alright, so basically I think after knight b4, black is already quite good. is already quite good. So, didn't e5 instead of knight b4 work was a question. So here e5, probably it was a move, but knight b4 is just much more promising, I mean, medley. So, yeah, queen is hanging here. I understand your idea. I also saw that move, no questions. But I just also saw this great knight b4 move, so it was like very hard to stand. So yeah, I don't think knight b4 is bad actually. So I don't see anything wrong with this move. So cb4, I just take the bishop or the rook. I think I would take the bishop, and the rook is hanging still. I cannot see any serious threat here. I mean, f takes g5. We saw how this is refuted. Of course, king f2 was a bad move, so king d1 was much better. But even here, okay, I just start with this move, where the king goes. I'm already a minor piece up. I mean, after king e2, I simply take the queen, and after bishop takes here, I just take on c3. I'm still a minor piece up, and there is no queen on the board, so it's just, yeah, just lost completely. So why it happened here? Because, well, I just much better developed, right? I'm much better developed, and feels like my pieces are better coordinated here. And my king is more or less safe, so at least I have some pieces covering it. And actually, I control most important squares like h7, g6. My bishop is always ready to play back to g7 to cover it in case of check, while white's king is completely naked. So, do you know if there is a defense here? Maybe just something connected with this castling. It was interesting to try, but still, I don't believe it is great. I just don't believe. Maybe I can play this e5 now. Looks interesting. I can also just probably get this one. After f here, I just play this. But this may be potentially dangerous after this check. Then this addition. King goes back to g8. Now it's like queen f3. But once again, feels like after simple bishop to a6, I should just control most important squares here. But this is, of course, less clear than what happened in our game. So here, white definitely has something. At least it looks like that for some time. But, I mean, with the help of accurate play, I should win it anyway. All right. Many thanks for this game. Many thanks. Very interesting one. Probably this e4 is not good enough. In fact, I still believe that it's just too early for white to go for this attack. But maybe there is just a concrete line that leads to a decent position without any sacrifice or anything like this. Yeah. Maybe you just played h5 too early. Maybe it was better to play f4. I have no idea. And if anyway, I'm just too tired, so all my recommendations are probably not very relevant. All right, guys, many thanks for being with me. So this time it was like longer than recently, which I'm happy to provide, because well, I had a lot of weekend plays during last month or two. So now I have some sort of break. Which means I can devote more time to you, my students, if I can call you this way. All right, wish you a great weekend. See you very, very soon. Bye-bye.